agents for change in a society is usually persona non grata for those who have been the beneficiaries of the system.
Welcome to On the Record, where we dive deep into the most pressing issues that shape our lives, our rights, and our future. I am the host, Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio. And today we're once again joined by civil rights leader of the Reverend Al Sharpton, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation and SiriusXM's Al Sharpton Show. And I will say one of the most trusted voices in America. Rev, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you. Always be glad to be with you, Ebony.
You know, talk about trusted voices. Where are the trusted voices, Rev, in this administration? I'm seeing people flip-flop on bipartisan deals in Congress that they were for, and now people are going in totally different directions. We have a government that seems to be run amok, even a president now that says that, or his vice president saying that, what is the authority that judges have? And trying to figure out ways to go around things. The administration recently signed an executive order, Donald Trump, to establish DOGE, which has not been approved by Congress.
No, it is absolutely unprecedented, some of the stuff that they're doing. And the lack of even trying to cover up what they're doing. When you look at the White House, you don't even have an Omarosa. At least he had one that he tried to roll out there the first time. You don't even have an Omarosa this time. It is blatant exclusionary when it comes to blacks and others. And it is blatant for the zillionaire, billionaire class. Can you imagine when we watched yesterday, Elon Musk standing over the Resolute desk with the president sitting there in his overcoat and his son playing like they're at a playground? Imagine if Obama had a black billionaire standing up there in the Oval Office doing that. It's like a total disregard even for decorum, because they are acting, behaving, and showing every signal that this is their playground. They're going to make money. They're going to change the rules. They're going to wreck whatever they can to redo government. And DOGE is the example that you raised that personifies that. They have a non-elected, non-vetted guy hitting DOGE. He's not gone in front of a Senate or House committee. He's not been vetted. He's not been questioned. He's not been sanctioned. Just by the weight of him being the, quote, richest man in the world, he now can go and analyze, hire, fire, recommend termination, get secret financial records on you and I and all Americans from Treasury based on an appointment of a president without any vote in Congress to authorize it. This is an absolute coup d'etat.
Absolutely. There have been dozens of lawsuits filed against this administration and all the executive orders. And even recently, even though a judge just blocked the freezes, we know the things he's doing are unconstitutional. His administration is still not releasing money that it's supposed to. People are still locked out of their offices. I'm being inundated with emails with people scared asking me what to do. And when they talk about government efficiency, which they keep writing on, I was in that room yesterday during that press conference and executive order signing. And one thing I don't think people realize that Elon Musk said, because he said so much, was that he was going to go after low-income earners that they say that they have found that they have, I guess, amassed wealth, or trying to see how they have come into the money that they've come into, because he feels like the American people want to know how you can be such a low income earner, but then amass wealth, instead of going after, and I was trying to get this question in, instead of going after, what about high income millionaires and billionaires who pay zero taxes. I think that the American people would rather figure out what is happening there, because as we know, he gets most of his contracts, of course, from the government, and those Defense Department contracts that he has, nothing there is really going to touch him. He's not being
No,
affected.
he wants to go after this nameless, faceless people that are cheating the government
That
and
don't exist.
that don't exist. It's the same thing from the Bush campaign when they created this woman, the welfare queen. This is what we're seeing happen to play out this time. And you know, Donald Trump, like me, comes from New York, and there's a place in New York, Times Square, where
Mm-hmm.
big con game on the tourists is three-card money, where you put the cards and have them guess where you put the $20 bill and tell them if you can guess the right one, you get the $20 bill. And it's a
Right.
high game. They keep moving the card. They're playing a shell game. So we're going to play the welfare queen over here. We're going to play DI over here. So you really don't see what we're really doing is cutting deals and giving unprecedented access and authority to billionaires so they can make more money because they have every kind of technological way to reach you and get their product to you, and you become suckered into it.
When it comes to this issue and so many others concerning these executive orders, talk about how it's affecting communities of color, and also what is the strategy for the Democrats? I saw Hakeem Jeffries, leader Hakeem Jeffries, saying, "Look, Republicans have all branches, basically." He said, "What is it that you are looking for us to do? I know that many are talking, it's really a states game. You really have to take it to the streets and show the people how they're being affected."
They have to take it to the streets, which is why some of us in civil rights are already in the streets doing boycotts and boycotts and going at the private sector. And some of us never left the street. It always was a combination. I remind people all the time, when I was a kid, the civil rights movement didn't start on Capitol Hill. Dr. King and Roy Wilkins and then brought it to Capitol Hill. It's going to have to come from the bottom up. And I think that Hakeem and others can be empowered by that. But we cannot expect them to lead that movement when they're in a minority. Let's not forget, just 5 years ago now, when we had George Floyd and a movement around it, we were able to get the president at that time, Joe Biden, to sign an executive order around George Floyd policing. If we had the numbers, we could have made it federal law. But we were able to get those 3 policemen indicted, prosecuted. Ahmaud Arbery's killers went to jail. Or we saw what happened in other cases, federal civil rights cases. First thing Trump and them did with the new attorney general is close down the civil rights division in the Justice Department. So we need to be loud and we need to be in the streets.
Absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned the boycotts and the boycotts. I do want to, is there any updates you can give us? Have you all been hearing back from any of these companies that are nervous about what that could do to their bottom line, who may be rethinking anything? How is that coming along?
A lot of those companies have reached out and said that we want to do this, but we don't want to call it DEI because we don't want to have the Trump administration come down. And our position is, no, we want to know what is the plan to continue diversity, equity, and inclusion. Y'all can deal with the semantics. Otherwise, you're targeted. We said 90 days, we would come out with it. That will be during our National Action Network National Convention, April 2nd through the 5th. And we're going to call names and we're going to hit companies that will not commit to continue diversity, inclusion, and equity. You must remember, they want diversified consumers. So then why wouldn't they commit to diversity in their C-suite and in their advertising, in their contracts, and in their employment? So if you cannot commit to diversity in those areas, then you should not have a diversity in your consumer base.
Absolutely. A topic, Brad, that's been getting more attention, but I believe not enough, is the bill, the SAVE Act, which would require citizens to provide proof of citizenship before voting in federal elections. Critics are arguing that this measure could disenfranchise millions. This is another tactic we are seeing when it comes to voter disenfranchisement, particularly among minority communities that already face systematic barriers. Rev, the SAFE Act is generating intense debate, like I said, about voter suppression. From your perspective, how might requiring citizen documentation at polls affect communities' rights to vote?
I think that it is a modern version of how many jelly beans in the jar. That's what they used to do to stop our people from voting years ago, is tell me how many jelly beans in the jar. So now prove to me you're a citizen. Do you have your passport? Do you have your birth certificate? All of that. And many people don't maintain that. Many people don't have passports because they don't travel internationally. And I think it is a way to inhibit the vote, and we need to make sure that we fight that with all that we have, state by state, as well as the Congress. Let me tell you something else that people are missing. Donald Trump is strong on this immigration stuff. We're going to put people out of the country, cross the border. But notice this. He says that we're going to stop people from Mexico and Haiti coming in the country. But he offered refugee status to white South Africans who he said are being oppressed. So if we don't have room for people from Haiti, what room you have for people from South Africa being oppressed? How? Then they add insult to injury or an insult to our intelligence. You want to make Canada and Greenland states. So why are you saying we can't share our wealth with more people? We got to contain. But you want to add two countries and make them states. Is it because they're mostly white and you're afraid that the white population is going to be equal to the populations of color? Notice who he wants to make states. He doesn't want to make Trinidad or Haiti or Puerto Rico state. He wants to make mostly white nation states. We can't be that stupid.
And we've seen this before, right? We have seen this before. It is also another form of ethnic cleansing, like we're seeing in Gaza, with the U.S. just coming in, trying to clean out, taking over territories. It is just another form of colonization. It's dizzying. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's dizzying every single day. We're seeing executive orders being passed. You got to go back and look it up because it's like they are throwing everything at the wall just to see what sticks.
That's right. That's right.
Before we go, Rabbi, I do want to ask you about Mayor Eric Adams and this DOJ directive, this controversial decision to drop charges against Mayor Eric Adams, widely viewed as a political maneuvering, and it stirred up concerns about the integrity of the justice system. Some critics say that it looks like a little blackmail, but it's designed to keep public officials in line with the administration's agenda. How do you interpret this DOJ decision to drop charges against Mayor Eric Adams?
I think that it is on its face outrageous. The letter that was sent from DOJ to the Southern District to drop the charges said in the letter that we're not saying he's innocent or guilty. We're saying to set it aside without prejudice, meaning you can bring it back anytime you want. And said, that the indictment shouldn't have happened 9 months before the primary. Well, that's ridiculous. Every member of Congress has to run every 2 years. 9 months before the next primary, they're out raising money, getting ready for the next election. So what precedent is that? Secondly, it says, and he must be available to work with the president on immigration and crime. So when do you, on a legal document, tie someone not having a trial to whether they're going to work on the policies with the sitting president? That is explicit. It also shows that they don't know what they're doing, because they could have just sent a message saying, we think you should forestall the trial. They put in writing, it's about politics and policy of the president,
Right.
and in writing about the time before the next primary, which then makes every member of Congress say that the only way I can make sure I'm never indicted is just announce I'm running for office.
Absolutely. The politics that we see happening continuously. Before we go, Rev, it's Black History Month. Woo! And it's blackened. That's all I can say in so many different ways. It is Black History Month, but give those who will see this just a word before we go. And I want you to tie it to the message that we kind of saw at the Super Bowl with Kendrick Lamar. Before you start, I'll say my issue is that I love what Kendrick did. It went over some people's heads, but what I wish would have happened is that people then would have started talking about what was happening in New Orleans, talk about the measures that the governor has been carrying out when it comes to the criminal system, the lack of unemployment that is happening in New Orleans. I love Kendrick's message, and I think he pointed us to that, but I think people harped on entertainment value instead of saying, are y'all realizing where this is taking place and what's happening with the people? So as we are in this month, just take us out with a good word.
I think that, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was quoted as saying, only when it is dark can you see the light. And I think that what we must do as we review Black history is the history of our people, particularly since we were enslaved here from 1619 till now, is that we always found the light in the darkest of situations. Trump and the Trump era and Trump 2.0 is a dark time, but we should seek the light. And the light is that we can fight back. We have defeated and overcome people tougher, smarter, and more powerful than Trump. So the reason we need to study our history is see how far we've come. We walked off the plantation in 1863 with no money. We worked 246 years, never got paid. We walked off with no education. It was against the law for us to read and write. We walked off not knowing where our families were. They were sold to different states. Yet illiterate, broke, and no family, and not even knowing our name. We were named after our slave masters. We were able to build and come back anyhow. And look at where we came from. So some guy named Trump can't go up against people that have that kind of blood in their vein. So that's why when I watch Kendrick Lamar, with those Black men there doing the flag, reinterpreting what the country was. From James Brown to Kendrick Lamar, we write our own music. The reason why the lyrics are not understood by everybody is we're on a different beat. We took the beat, James Brown used to tell me, he took it from a 2/4 beat to a 1/3. The problem wasn't Lamar, the problem was you on the wrong beat.
Ooh, well, I'm gonna leave it at that. Say less, say less. I love it. Rev, thank you so much for coming on the record. Can't wait to talk to you again, sir. And be safe while you're in these streets.
All right. Same to you. God bless you.